to order. It is now a few minutes after 7, and this is September 3, 2020. And our first agenda item is approval of minutes of August 6, 2020. Do we have any changes, deletions, or corrections?
I'll move approval of the minutes with one addition. Oh, go ahead.
Okay, go ahead.
That would be in the number 3 public appearance non-agenda items after when Karen Lawrence spoke by a written comment. I did make a comment after her under that public appearance, generally commenting that the Park Commission needs to have good, accurate background information for our topics. So I would like that added in. I did give Scott a sentence by email already that he has.
What was that again?
I made a comment about that the Park Commission needs good, accurate information, background information for our agenda topics here as part of the public appearance non-agenda items, and I already gave Scott a sentence that I suggested to use. So
Is there something that we didn't get? I don't remember getting anything that we didn't get, did we?
It was a public appearance. You know, Karen Lawrence had the written note.
Oh,
And then after that, then I made a comment as part of that agenda topic. So I'm just asking that that be added in because it was a comment under public appearance non-agenda item.
what else you got?
That's all. That's all that I have unless anyone else has anything.
I do.
You have any other corrections?
Not a correction, but a request, and for this and other minutes and agendas, when we have acronyms like NSGC, we know what that means, but any individual who may want to look at that has to go to the city website and search the acronym to figure out what we're talking about. So just if we're reminded to spell it out at least once.
So
Right.
change the abbreviation to what
Yeah,
it means.
at least once. I mean, if it's referenced several
Yep.
times, you can go to
Yep.
the acronym.
I agree, so I'm fully happy to accept that as a amendment, a friendly amendment.
Okay. Anything else? Hearing none?
Second.
Any? Second? Good. All right. Any discussion on the corrections? Hearing none. All those in favor on the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carried. Minutes are approved. Item 3 is a public appearances for any non-agenda items. So you folks will be on with the agenda item that's listed below. But this is for non-agenda items. Hearing none, I'll then close that portion of the meeting and move on to review and approval of agenda.
I'll move approval.
Okay, is there a second? Second by David. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carried. Item 5 is discussion and action items, and the first on our agenda is Prairie Crescent Road Park proposal. Scott, I don't know if you want to open this up or let them speak first, or?
I can. I can introduce them, Mark, if you'd
Okay,
want me
just
to.
for the record, we do have 3 people here to speak on it. Dan Dave from Meridian Homes, 7530 Westford Way. Chris Ellers, 5880 Hialeah, Meridian Homes. And Matt Salisbury, 7530 Westford Way from D'Onofrio, Cockey and Associates. So we'll open up with Scott first.
And basically, this is a new development that the Park Commission has seen. It's Crescent Crossing neighborhood, and to orientate yourself, it's between Seminole Highway and Stoner Prairie schools, Savannah Oaks, those schools. And Chris and Dan are here. The proposal that they're going to present to the Park Commission is something that we haven't seen before. Basically, what they're proposing to do is to build the park at their expense, along with maintain the park through their homeowners association, but in lieu of that, they're looking for credit for their parkland dedication, where they would receive credit for the lands that they're going to develop. The thing is, I did want to call your attention to our park and open space plan, the 215 to 220. It does have an action item, which would be a new action item, and I'll just read it. Explore opportunities for use of non-city financial resources to maintain and enhance the city system. So this, in turn, is a method of developing a park and maintaining it that we haven't had currently. But it is identified as a potential option as we continue to try and work financially soundly and those kinds of things. So I think just as that as a preface, and what we'll do tonight, what I'll do, depending on how the Park Commission responds to this, if you're favorable, what I'll do is I'll put a resolution together and get it to the Common Council, and then it'll be referred back to the Park Commission and then go on to the Common Council for final approval. So we're really trying to get your thoughts and your feedback on this method. So I think with that, I'll let the team go.
All right, thank you, everyone, for having us or giving us the opportunity to meet in person. This is the first time we've been back here in about 6 months, so it feels good to get to talk to everybody face to face here. Just a little bit about where we're at with the development so far. Everything is on schedule. I don't know how many of you have driven past this area recently, but we've had a nice dry summer, and because of that, development's been able to stay on schedule, and we have our curbs in out here, and we're getting ready to get our street sections paved and build houses in about a month. We're gonna start our first houses out in this neighborhood. So why are we at Parks this late in the game? Well, because back when we were planning this, we had identified areas for stormwater all around this development, and this development, again, is geared towards attainable, priced housing, entry-level housing, really catering towards first-time homeowners out here, and we're still on target to hit all these crucial price points that we're looking for, but also to be walking distance from all of the amenities, including the Hop House across the street, Blackhawk Church, and then catering also to the Sub-Zero expansion diagonally here, and all of the young engineers that they'll be moving over there soon. So while we were going through this planning process, the power lines right here, this way there's a gap, there's a power line easement through here, and then the North Stoner Prairie neighborhood is on the other end of this and surrounding this. So there's 140 houses in North Stoner Prairie, 118 in our development here, so a total of about 250 houses that'll be servicing this area. We were looking at stormwater management around the development, and what we came to is that the calculations came out okay, that we actually ended up with an area here that was destined for Prairie and is basically under the power lines, and we really wanted to put it to use. And we wanted to look at something for highest and best use. And what we've realized is that on the west side, especially in Fitchburg, we're really missing this dog park component between the two neighborhoods. They've already had some issues with the newer residents in Stoner Prairie walking dogs in near Stoner Prairie School. And of course, there's the, when can your dog be on the leash and when can it be? So we're trying to address that by bringing in a dog park here, as well as we've decided that a play structure or a pocket park to really serve these young families and the young children in this neighborhood would make a lot of sense right here. I'll let my landscape architect get into the details on the design, and then our engineer can kind of paraphrase for you what the ask is here, or what the deal would be between the city of Fitchburg and Viridian. Yep, go ahead.
Go next slide. So outlot 7, there we go, Right here, it's about 11,000 square feet, quarter of an acre, and what we're proposing here is to have mostly unprogrammed open space with some seating in the corner in the form of benches, framing these spaces with some nice landscaping, trees, and then having a small area for playground equipment. Go to the next one. Here's what we got proposed for the play equipment. It says it's for 5 to 12-year-olds, but we asked them to put something in there to kind of address the younger kids too. So we've got 2 different size slides, some different size climbing apparatus to really go towards that target client for the entry-level homes. We got 4 swings, 2 for the older kids, 2 for the younger kids. You can go to the next slide. Here's just looking at a plan view of it, as well as some pictures, not quite the same colors, but gives you a feel for what we're looking at for playground equipment. So looking at the dog park, we're looking at about an acre's worth of land. 1/3 of it would be for a small dog area, and 2/3 of it would be for a large dog area. Around the perimeter, we've got landscaping to screen the north neighbors and also the neighbors from the south, so that they don't have to always see what's going on in the dog park area. For perimeter fence, we've got a 4-foot vinyl coated fence. And then we've got some amenities planned in here. So it wouldn't be your typical dog park where it's just open land, but there would be some play things and some play things for the dogs, and then also some amenity for the people who have their dogs in there. So at the entry, we've got this double-gated sally port, where in the front we'd have some signage, so it's for small dogs. They go through that sally port, and we'd have right away some seating amenities in the shade. So you'd have a bench with some type of shade structure. Also some disposal receptacles, so that we're taking care of the bad stuff that dogs bring. And then we've got, if getting into some of these dog amenities, we've got some boulders, which kind of do dual purpose. The dogs can climb on them, jump from boulder to boulder, but then it also offers another seating amenity for the people that are in there. We've got a pre-manufactured climbing ramp that would go in here, so dogs can climb on, go underneath. Up here, for agility, we've got some dog hurdles, and then also a balance beam that could be put in. Reusing some tractor or some loader tires, again, for climbing or going underneath. And then in the middle, we've got a tunnel, which would be basically a storm pipe that would be buried, and the dogs can play underneath there and also go up over the top of it. In the large dog park, we've got some of the same elements, but at a bigger scale. So we'd have that balance beam again, probably be a little bit bigger. The storm pipe would be bigger, so that they would have a tunnel to go through and also climb over the top of it. We've got our boulders again, so they can jump from boulder to boulder. Another seating amenity for the people, as well as 2 areas for benches and shade. And then one difference between the 2 here, we got a boulder pyramid, which would be stacked boulders, which are about 4-foot boulders by 2 foot high into a pyramid. Again, another climbing and seating amenity. Up here is our double gated sally port with a sign for large dogs, and then we got another waste receptacle here. I think that covers it. I'll hand it over to Dan.
So, my name is Dan Day from D'Onofrio Khaki, so just a pleasure to be here this evening. What I kind of wanted to go through a little bit is how we see this being structured potentially. Obviously, we want to seek your input. So Scott, could you go to that green slide on that one right there? Yeah. So what we're looking at is we've done some cost estimates for those 2 parks or 2 areas, totaling about $178,000 total between the 2 of them. That does not include any grading or seating. That is all the improvements above ground, at ground and above. What we're proposing is twofold. Is a reduction in our parkland dedication fee, which is basically equal to the area that's being used for the dog park and for the open space. So those 2 areas between outlot 7 and outlot 11 totals about 55,000 square feet, or about equal to equivalent of about 19 units of park dedication fee. That would reduce the park dedication fee by about $82,000. The other aspect that we'd be requesting is the elimination of the park improvement fees for this plat of about $61,000. In total, that would reduce the fees by $143,000, which is still less than what we're putting into it, of the $178,000. And the city would still be getting fees in lieu of, for park dedication, $424,000 for this plat. So there's still a significant amount of dollars that Viridian would be writing out a check for the Parkland dedication fee in lieu of, for the difference between 19 units and 118 total, or whatever the total is for the plat. Again, as was mentioned by Scott, this would be owned and maintained by the association. We would not be limiting as to who could use these park features. This is something that's going to be open to the public, so I mean, that's generally a key point in any discussions like this. We have done this in several communities. We've done several parks. Matt's designed several parks in the city of Madison that are public parks that we have done this similar kind of an arrangement with them. We've also done several private parks this way. We're doing one right now in Prairie, implementing one right now in Wanakee, and looking to kind of roll this forward here too. We think this is a great opportunity to work in partnership with the city here to be able to put something together here for the win-win for everybody. I guess we're open for questions. Scott, do you want to maybe go to the overall, or maybe this, depending on what the commission wants to talk about?
Yeah, I do have a question regarding the association. Is it, these lots are not condominiumized, so we don't have a condominium association?
No, the association is a homeowners association, and the way Viridian has it set up is that it ends up effectively being a permanent association, because they are required as part of their association docs to hire a management company to manage the association, and those fees then are rolled into that. Had very good success with past projects and past associations of being active for long term. We've got many of these that are still active a long time down the road.
So,
Is this, also part of proposals you've mentioned in the city of Madison and some Prairie?
Yes, we have other private parks that we have installed that are being owned and maintained by the associations.
And they didn't have any problems with continuity years down the road?
Probably,
A lot of times we found associations
Yep.
disappearing or becoming weaker. And
Yep. Probably the biggest one right now is the Grandview Commons out on the east side of Madison. It's about parks that we put in 2002. A couple of private parks that are owned and maintained by the association are doing very, very well.
what would be the advantage of going that route versus the city, which would ensure continuity throughout?
I think it's probably more for Scott to answer, but I think from our side of it, number one is being privately done, that we're able to do some things that maybe the city wouldn't want to take on from a maintenance perspective, which we completely understand. Probably the size of park might also be a little small for what the city would want to take on for maintenance and ownership. So that's kind of several of the reasons why we thought this was an ideal situation for private ownership and maintenance.
And I might add that certainly with the capacity and our budgets and those kinds of things, it really, if we'd have the ability to maintain it, just with our current capacity, so them offering to maintain it is good, but then them certainly with the homeowners are going to be on them to make sure that it's maintained in a good high level. So it kind of, they basically will take ownership of it, is what we really want to do with all of our parks. If a neighborhood is interested and willing to take ownership of it, they can tend to take it to that next step a little bit beyond what we have the capability to do within the park system. So again, as Dan alluded to, it is in my eyes too, it's a win-win in that we get the services provided to our residents. They flip the bill, and it seems to be equal. It seems to make financial sense, and then along with, they become the owners and are really kind of subject to the direct neighbors' concerns and wanting to make sure that it's nice for their customers.
My experience with associations, at least around here, is that if there isn't any political issues, they tend to feather out and not become active eventually. And there's a number of us neighborhoods that are that way today, but and that's why I was wondering how to ensure the continuity of this forever. And you mentioned a private company, but we don't have control over that either.
Well, what we do is we put in the covenants, because again, those are valid concerns, and in a lot of the older condo communities and all over Dane County, they've had the same issues, and especially with mismanaged reserve funds years after associations have been turned over, they're drained of money and they have all these items to repair. So what we've done is we've instituted language in the covenants that can never be removed, that requires that once Veridian is gone, that they have to, the association has to hire a management company, professionally run management company every year to maintain the budget and maintain the expenditures that are and the reserve fund that are allocated for that association. So even if there's a point in time 20 years from now that you've got a lack of interest or lack of leadership within the board or the presidency of the HOA, you have an outside agency that's always managing those finances and those expenditures just to make sure that it's happening the right way and getting spent the right way.
The other thing is that this association, I'm sorry for jumping in here, this association will also be doing some significant maintenance work besides this. So it's gonna have to be active for maintenance and plowing of the alleyways in here, because those are all private alleyways. So it's gonna be an association that's gonna have some credibility to it to be able to maintain a number of things. It's not like they're just maintaining the front entrance sign area. This is gonna be a significant association that has to maintain a handful of things in perpetuity.
And Veridian has experience of handling associations like this and how they are set up. They have experience in managing dog parks. So we know that the dog park needs to get budgeted to be mowed once a week, cleaned up twice a week. And so that's all budgeted ahead of time for this. So we do have experience in managing parks and dog parks.
I've got one other question for Scott, and I'll just open it up for everybody else. So, Scott, has this gone to the Planning Commission? Have they approved, the subdivision's already approved and in regards to layout? And
Yeah. I mean, it's getting built right now. The infrastructure is getting built. It's final plat approved, yes.
And what they're sharing with us is they determined within that one section that they don't need as much stormwater, so they have an opportunity to create that as an additional park. So that's where they're looking for the parkland dedication credit, if you would.
so the location, the configuration, and as far as the park goes, is already cast. Is that?
Yes,
am I
that's
correct?
correct.
Yeah, because right, that was platted as a stormwater facility. Now I think they're probably going to change it to a park kind of thing. I don't.
It's final platted, it's been recorded, it was recorded as an open space, so we can use that for,
I see.
it's a pretty broad designation of what that outlot can be used for.
I just don't remember seeing it. So anyway, I'll open it up for other, Patrick?
Yeah, first question to Scott. We don't have any referral sheet in our packet here. Is there a referral sheet? Because this is an action item that we're taking here.
No, as I mentioned at the lead, they're going to introduce it to the Park Commission. I felt that the Park Commission needed to get the first crack at it.
Okay.
And then depending on how the Park Commission feels about it, at that point then we'll take it to the Common Council for referral back to the Park Commission. If the Park Commission, I think the idea here is, which I credit the group here, they're trying to get ahead of it here and see what the questions of the Park Commission. So actually, if it comes back to the Park Commission, or when it does, then it'll be a done deal kind of thing.
So in other words, this is preliminary to us before we're taking action on it. We're going to have a vote. But this will be back again later at the Park Commission for
Oh, yeah.
like a final vote.
It'll go to the council, referral resolution back to the Park
Right.
Commission, and then to the council for final approval.
Okay, then, for one thing, based on some comments that we have made in our past meetings, I give you credit for bringing this to us early on so we can put some comments in at the beginning rather than at the very last minute, you know? Another question for Scott. Would this whole agreement with the Crescent Crossing Neighborhood Association have some kind of a formal legal agreement written by the city attorney, Valerie Zisman,
I
to
would,
cover all of these contingencies and agreements and everything?
I would suspect that we would rely on Veridian to provide that document, that draft document for review by legal counsel, absolutely.
Okay, and might there, well, let's see, would there be, let's say, over the top of all of that, be some kind of oversight by the park department of this, just to make sure that everything goes okay, everything is done as agreed and such and such? In other words, the park supervisor might stop by, you might stop by or something, just look it over, see if everything is going okay.
Absolutely. Again, at the end of the day, we're providing services to the residents of the city of Fitchburg, and the city of the residents may not understand the details of it, but we kind of see it as an amenity for the residents, and we'll keep an eye on it and do whatever we need to do, I guess, yeah.
Okay, and kind of related to Mark's comments also, there in some kind of a legal agreement, there might be a kind of a fail-safe contingency, just like Mark is saying, if things 10, 20, whatever years into the future kind of fall apart or whatever, there might be a sort of a fail-safe of, hey, we've decided this first shot at this in Fitchburg isn't working, and rerun the numbers and the park dedication and everything and make it a public-owned city park instead of privately owned. That's something I would see might be a good thing to have into some kind of a legal agreement.
Yeah,
If
yeah.
it
and
doesn't happen, then fine.
No, yeah, that's, it's something, obviously, like what Scott said, we would probably provide the initial verbiage and then let the city come back with what they want to add on to it. No issues with anything you've just talked about. And we would probably try to insert it into the developer agreement so, it's in line with everything else we've got going on out here. So,
Okay.
yeah, that could work.
Then a couple questions for any of you. I am guessing here that could you go to the map again for the whole area? Backwards some pages. There's a heavy dashed line that goes around there. I have not driven by this recently. Is that that north half of it there, is that what you're currently working on? Is that like a phase one of this
That's
area?
phase one.
Yeah, that's phase one.
And there'll be 3 phases.
Okay.
So, but we would like to get this going, at least get the grass seed down this fall, so we have a good grass growing up in the spring out here. That's our goal. So that's why we just highlighted this section for it right now.
Mhm. And then, I'm not sure if I heard the details of what you said. Are the streets in this phase one, but the whole south part there is still open field, or what stage is this at right now?
So give me, because south is actually south
To
of
the
Lacey.
left.
Yeah,
To the left?
yes.
Well, that's south, right?
Yeah,
Yes,
that's
left is
south,
south.
and that's gonna be the solar farm. That's the O'Brien farm.
Oh, no, I don't mean across Lacey. I mean Spark Street
East?
and Wildcat Drive. Well, they're both.
So this area here is farmed right now. The
Yeah,
stormwater
that's what I mean.
managements
Yeah.
are improved on both sides.
Okay.
And this area up here, Matt, don't turn my way so I'm blind here. This area here, completing the streets and the utilities right now.
Okay.
We're probably gonna be paving in the next week or so.
Right, that was my question. Okay, so I mean, there's not any housing starts in here just yet.
Nope, not for
Nope.
another month or so.
Okay, then about the power line there, where the stormwater management and the dog parks, the 2 dog parks side by side, small and large, are proposed, that's underneath the power line, so who owns the land, and is there a lease on it from owner to user?
It's owned by the,
It's owned by Veridian.
it's
but
owned by
it's a
Veridian right
lease.
now, but will be moved over to the association in time. But there's an easement over top to ATC for the power lines.
And we have met with ATC. We started there. Make sure they're good with it. They're
How
good.
wide
with it.
is,
Yes, we did talk to ATC about it, yes.
how wide is that easement?
100 feet?
50 on each side?
Yeah, I think it's 100 feet.
Split on your division, on your,
Yeah, the
Property
line
line.
goes right down the middle of this
It-
outline.
It's all on this property.
It's all on all on this site here.
So then there's a stormwater basin on, what is that, east of it, and then there will be houses backing up to that.
sorry to interrupt, go ahead.
Okay. In the open space park in the center right there, maybe could you go to the next page? Yeah, that right there. There's those properties, they're numbered 54, 55, 56, 57, 58. Which is the front end of those properties and which is the back end? And at that right there, I know now, right now, north is upwards.
Correct.
So there's 5 lines going east-west along the north end of those properties. What are all of those 5 lines? Where's the property line? Are they easement lines? What are all those lines?
So those are what we call green fronting lots, okay? So the front doors actually go out to a sidewalk that moves right up through here, okay? So the sidewalk goes right here,
The next page would be better, I think.
okay?
Yeah.
Stand up here.
Yeah.
So there's a sidewalk that runs through here. This is the property line right there. There's a sidewalk that comes through here. The water and sewer go through here to serve these lots here. They all front and have porches that go out to the green space. And
Okay.
then the garages are in the rear, loaded off the alley.
Okay, so the main streets through here, with the names on them, those are public streets, and then the alleys are private.
That is correct.
Correct.
Okay.
Probably a better picture.
Okay.
We'll bring pictures of the houses next time if we're back here.
Okay, so that kind of alleviates one concern that I had about properties that would be right up to the park boundary, but that's their front door, and there's a sidewalk out in front of the house, so that's a kind of a good division
Yes.
Correct.
between the private property, and then across the sidewalk is this park.
Correct.
Okay.
We've done this numerous places in the last 20 years. It actually ends up being a very neat feature for these homeowners, because you'll see the homeowner sitting on the porch while their kids are out playing in the park.
I'm going to pause and see if anyone else has.
Any other questions? Okay, go on, sir.
Hi, Sue, can you get closer? Yes, I shall. I'm just assuming that the city staff and council verifies the numbers that are provided, the financials, because, we're not prepared here to say, well, all those numbers are accurate or are going to
Yes.
turn out to be fair.
I would suspect Scott's checked them already, or he will be very closely.
Yeah, city administrator, others.
Yep.
And now the dog park is in exchange for what might have been Prairie, and just, you may know the answer to this. In the other developments surrounding it, underneath the power easement and the other developments, did they put any Prairie in, or is it all
No,
parking lots?
It's
and-
stormwater. It was stormwater basins.
Sure.
And then, that's really it. It's
Right.
all stormwater, the church and the neighborhood.
Yeah, well, and the stormwater, many of them seem to be planted with native plantings. It's not like it's just
Correct.
mowed grass, so.
Yeah.
Then that leads to the next question of the ones that are within your parcel around each stormwater area. Is there any plan to maintain those? To keep invasive plants out? Maintain that the plantings that are in there remain a quality
So
plant?
we have a, you know, a stormwater management plan. Is that, you're talking about the stormwater basins?
Well, yeah, I mean, the storm water itself is one thing, and that's the main function. But they start out looking really nice because it's been seeded with native seeds. And then over the years, they might fill in with everything else that suddenly isn't functioning as it should. Choked out with things like buckthorn, honeysuckle.
So these basins, the stormwater basins are going to be installed by the developer, improved by the developer, and maintained through the end of the warranty, and then they're going to be owned and maintained by the city.
Okay,
So whatever the city's maintenance plan is for those
Okay.
basins is what would be
All
going
right.
on, and I'm not totally sure exactly what that is, but I'm sure they've got a plan for that.
sure, all right. And you just said something that brings up another question. You said for the length of the warranty, what is that period of time? Just until the last home is constructed and the homeowners association is formed?
I cannot remember
Around there?
exactly what the city's subdivision agreement says for that maintenance. But
That's
we'll,
okay.
we'll certainly follow whatever the city rules are on that.
Sure. And then, final question, because you've already got the streets in and whatever's gonna be underneath the streets is there. You don't have, or do you, a water source at the dog park? I'm only asking because one was just installed after the fact at the other dog park on, off of Lacey Road and Irish Lane, and I personally go to that one, and I'd have brought a jug of water with my dog, but others who volunteer and work on that wanted to have an actual water fountain.
Yeah, we didn't have a water source as part of our plan for
Okay,
this.
thank you.
Yep.
Any other comments?
It is right on a city street, so is that a possibility? Gotta be a water main, you know.
Yeah, there's a water main out there, but I mean, like I said, we've already got the curb and gutter and the sidewalk down, and it's like supposed to be paved like any moment. So it might be a little late to get it without being very expensive to do it.
David, you had a comment?
Yeah, what would be the basic rules for the operation of the park? Are they consistent with the other recently put-in dog park that Sue mentioned? So it seems to me that it'll be perceived as a public dog park in a specific neighborhood. And I think some effort should be made for it to operate that way. And it would also be, in terms of your signage, as to what, are the dogs need to be registered, rabies shots, et cetera, et cetera. So to me, I think the city does not want to get into a situation where we have various dog parks with various rules. And so I would think that that should be considered. Two, I would go back to this idea, you say that you have a number of dog parks that you've put in. Do any of them have water? And again, we're
No.
talking about
No, I'm going through,
Yeah.
thinking through it right now, and, no, it's a good point, but again, this is a little different than the one on Irish, because this isn't a destination where you have to load the dogs up in the car and you're driving over there. This is meant, when this is all said and done, this is actually gonna be between two neighborhoods, so 250 houses will surround this. It's meant for a walk-to dog park, and other neighborhoods that are nearby or adjacent can also walk to this. So, you know, if the dog goes, they play, and then they go home and drink out of their dog bowls, what I'm thinking through this. It's a little different than what we've seen with our other dog park over on Irish, from that aspect. Now, as far as the signage, we absolutely will line up with whatever Fitchburg standard is and requires for dogs or would like to see in that. That's no issue at all there, doing something like that.
Then a final question, this is a little bit different. You talked about the calculations, and originally you thought that this area would be used for the stormwater drainage. I believe the city of Fitchburg has a number of flooding problems. The calculations that are used today are based on recent rainfall, and I guess I would find it really a mistake that you don't have enough capacity in terms of the handling of the water. Does any of this water in this area, is it all directed to the north? Essentially, is that where the
no.
watershed is?
No, this actually goes to the south for the watershed. And the park itself drains towards the north a little bit, but then we have a storm basin in a low area to collect it and take it to the south, to our stormwater basin that is to the south and on the west.
So is that connect to the Sub-Zero development across the street?
No, it goes to the pipes that are down at Lacey and Seminole, at the intersection of Lacey and Seminole.
Well, I guess all I caution you is that a lot of well-intended engineers 20 years ago, 30 years ago, calculated things and they're wrong.
Will you talk through, and I've
Yeah.
been through this with you, living out here, so I've been through what's happened and how our stormwater ordinances have matured,
Yes.
especially as of recently. Will you kind of walk through what requirements we're hitting with this?
Yeah, so I mean, there's extensive requirements that we did for this site, including, you know, the typical stormwater detention, water quality, infiltration requirements. We're fortunate in this site that we actually had better soils for infiltration than what we had expected, and that's part of the reason why we didn't have to use all of that area, because our soils were quite good for the infiltration side of things.
And what makes good soil? So when we dug into the ground, there was a lot more sand
Correct.
than anyone anticipated out here. And I don't know if anyone ever went out there when this was being built, but how deep did we dig out?
Oh, I mean, not in the infiltration areas, but other areas that we dug, the sand was.
Yeah, I don't mean to have you go into it. It's just a caution, that's
Yeah.
all.
Yes.
And-
No, and then just to finish that, you know, our plan went through extensive staff and state and county staff review, plus state review. And then we were scrutinized also at the Plan Commission and council level because of the same concerns that you're bringing up too. So we've gone through a multitude of reviews on the stormwater plan that we have been approved for the site.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Any other comments?
I have just a
Chris?
couple questions, yeah. Sorry, my name's Chris, I forgot my name tag today. You mentioned in the covenants that would require a professional maintenance company. Is there anything in there to a similar effect that would guarantee a certain level of amenities in the public spaces to stay the same? Even if, you know, say in 20 years, a dog park is decided not to be the best thing, but it still has some sort of level of improvements.
Trying to think how that would work out. That would actually, the control of that would fall back on the city, I believe, once this is all said and done.
Well, I mean, I think is your question, Chris, that if in 20 years somebody decides that the dog park isn't the right thing for this anymore, and there needs to be some other improvement, but it should still be some sort of park feature, is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
So I guess the question is can we write any future use change needs to be approved by the city park commission?
Yeah,
Something to that effect seems to make sense, yeah.
would that be, yeah, we could do that. We could do
Yeah,
that.
I mean, who knows, maybe in 30 years, dog park doesn't make sense.
Right.
Yeah, I like that idea. And then we have an outside governing body though to make sure that it doesn't get off track. So yeah, that's good.
And the other question was more of a design question. Looking at the dog park, the large dog area, there's a note that, oh, now I don't see it. I thought I saw a note that said something about a swale or something. I guess I'm not seeing what I saw before, but in the large dog area, there's like a double dashed line, sort of an amoeba shape, just in the middle of the open lawn. What's that area going on right there?
So that's, excuse me, that is a low point in there, and that's where that pipe is that Dan mentioned that's taking the stormwater out of there and taking it to the southwest.
Okay. Do you,
So it-
I imagine you have to get the water out of there somewhere. I just wonder if that would be, I've seen what, you know, dogs will do to muddy lawns. So I just wonder if that doesn't drain as well as we might want it to, if that would become a maintenance headache.
that's something we can look into.
That's all I have for questions.
Is that it?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, go ahead, Patrick.
Okay, again, about the water sources and the two dog parks, small and large, and even the small park in the middle of here, I would suggest giving a little more serious thought to some kind of water source there. I am presuming that in the small people park in the center of the neighborhood there, you don't have any water source there either, no drinking fountain.
No, we had not planned a drinking fountain there whatsoever.
Okay, are the curbs and gutters and everything in the same there as you say around the dog park area here?
Yeah. I really don't want to do, drinking fountains are expensive. They're expensive to maintain, and they just, there's people, yeah, I would try to avoid that if we could, in that park.
Yeah, there are some city parks that don't have drinking fountains, but as far as the dog park, I think that needs a little more emphasis. Dogs coming out running around for exercise and everything, that seems a little rough to require them to go all the way home or to get a drink of water, or their owners to bring water and everything, which becomes a kind of a problem at the various dog parks around the area where people have to bring water, and then there's various dog dishes of water sitting around and all the dogs drink, and, you know,
Okay.
And
things
we,
are transmitted from one dog to another, or there's concerns anyway, so,
you know, and our current dog park does not have water, so,
well,
we're,
it's going to, right?
well, that still has to be approved and dollars and all of those. I'm just saying currently it functions without a water source.
Right, and then there's dog dishes of water sitting around that who knows, you know, where they came from and what dog is drinking out of it and all of that. But we just saw the proposal last month from Joran, the park supervisor, about the alternatives of which way to make that well a water source for the main dog park. One thing I would disagree about here, about the use of this dog park, this looks very interesting. You've got an obstacle course, you know, for dogs in there. I can see this being a draw to more than your Crescent Crossing or even the North Stoner Prairie neighborhood, because really the existing first dog park is far south and way over to the east at Fish Hatchery and Irish. Anyone in the whole northern part of the city might want to stop in here. So it may be more popular than you're thinking of, where you're thinking of just this neighborhood walking there. I am also a little concerned on a couple things here. There's Minong Lane at the south end of the Small Dog area, and then, what's the one? Wildcat Drive is the western border of this. Since Minong Lane going east and west is a main road through here, because if I remember right, that the Plan Commission kind of overruled the intended original difficult way to get through the neighborhood, and now you've got a straight east-west so that the traffic doesn't have to go round and round around the blocks to get from here to there. Does Minong Lane probably not allow parking along Minong Lane?
No, I believe there's parking on there.
Okay.
And it was always in the neighborhood plan. This follows the road alignment. It actually comes through and it connects to the adjacent
Right,
neighborhood.
I'm just, in my mind, I'm remembering there was an early version that if you come in from Seminole, you come up and then you have to go way around a block in order to
Yeah,
get through
yeah.
over to the east. and all.
Yeah, I think that was on the Stoner Prairie site. We'd never really proposed that here.
Okay, I know this will go through a lot of iterations, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. And so Wildcat Drive would also allow parking along there?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, I can really see cars driving in and parking here to use this, as I say, from anywhere north side of the city or anyone who wants to use an obstacle course, because that kind of feature doesn't exist at the Irish Lane dog park. So I think this could be more popular than you think. It's only the second one in the city. I do have a concern also. The entrance to the large dog area is way up there to the northwest. That's not bad. The entrance to the small dog area, though, is on Minong Lane, which means right in, I would kind of assume that to be the heavier traffic road going east and west through there. So that doesn't look like the best place to me to have the entrance in and out of there when people have to go in and out and then get to their cars or even just walk out and go to their homes. So I think it would be better if it was on Wildcat on the west side there.
Well, and again, I'm trying to deter people from being lazy and driving here. I want them to walk here. This is an area where we've got 250 homes surrounding it, and these home sites are a little tighter than what was built in Fitchburg 20 years ago. And so it's not as spread out. So you've got more density, and you want people to walk to places. They want them to walk to Hop House, walk to the church, walk to the dog park. That's what we're trying to promote here. So yeah, if they want to drive, they can. They can park on the road, on either of the roads if they want to. But the goal is that people in Crescent Crossing and North Stone Prairie and Lacey and Seminole can all walk to this dog park. And that demographic right there serves a number of houses. So there's more room, I think, than you realize. We're connecting to the sidewalk too. So the sidewalk will take you right to the entrance, won't it?
Yeah, there's sidewalk on that north side of that roadway. So it'll be pedestrian connected to the whole neighborhood here and also over here to Stoner Prairie. And then in this over here, there's a trail that runs east-west along the north side of our property abutting Blackhawk Church. And then there's a trail that comes into here, which that's where that comes off of. So it's really, truly meant for pedestrian, but I understand what you're saying, that it may be popular with people other than here.
Yeah, I'm not disagreeing with you that people from this neighborhood will walk here. I think that's fine, and I wouldn't want to do anything to deter them from walking. I mean, someone from, let's say, the houses way down on the south end to drive over here, that is kind of lazy. There's two things here. I'm thinking that Minong Lane, and you can tell me if you would agree, is the more heavily traveled road. And you've got the entrance to the small dog park right out into your heavily traveled road. And I do think this will be a draw from wider areas of the city, maybe even somewhere that might, someone that might live close to the Irish Lane dog park wants to go try this one out, and they're obviously going to have to drive here and park here and get in. I mean, my wife likes to go to all the dog parks. I know friends who like to go to all the dog parks.
I have a question.
They go to various.
To clarify what you're asking, there is no access on Wildcat Drive directly to the dog park. The west side of the dog park is bordered by private alleyways, correct?
Correct.
So there is no other place to put the entrance than where it is right now, unless you direct foot traffic into the private alleys, which are narrower.
Okay, I kind of missed that. That is an alleyway.
Okay.
I was thinking it fronted on Wildcat.
Okay.
Thank you.
And
I
then,
misread that.
because it's such a short distance for the neighbors, the fact that there isn't water there, I think is fine. I'm more the type of person, and we're all different, but I'm bringing a dog, I bring some water along. And so it's not there. If any level of the city insists that it be there, that's a cost that ultimately goes into that formula of what are the costs of the improvements, and it jumbles all those numbers. And it's a big deal at this point because they're ready to pave. So those are my opinions.
I'm going to summarize how I feel about this. I think there shouldn't be a dog park here. I think it's too small. I think whether you want it for the area, people who live there, it's not gonna happen. People from all around are gonna use it, I guarantee it. I don't think cyclone fencing is particularly attractive, especially when it's that close to housing. I think it's a trash collector. And I think it's going to be a real deterrent for those homeowners who are really within literally stone's throw from the park. I think more of a passive use would be more appropriate. It overlooks a detention basin. It, to me, would be far more useful for, I don't know, I guess I can't say kite flying because there's power lines, but, you know, there's lots of activities I think that open green space simply provides. If it's simply bird watching for adults or playing some other sport for kids, that seems to me a more appropriate use than a dog park. I don't know if we really want to get into dog parks this small. Some might say the one on Lacey Road is too small.
Irish.
Well, wasn't there one up on Fish Hatchery that was just
It's
approved?
Fish hatchery and Irish, right?
Fish Hatchery, no, Fish Hatchery and the multifamily up there.
Yeah, Irish Lane and Fish Hatch.
No, that's Irish Lane's a big dog park.
Yeah.
There's a new one.
Not by comparisons to dog parks in the area. It is,
Right, we have one dog park, and that's on Irish Lane, that everybody drives to, that's much bigger.
I don't believe it is.
This is a modified version. This is to fulfill the west side.
What other
The
one?
other thing is, I don't see any compelling reason why we should not have control over this. I just see it, problems down the road. When something's not working right, something's not functioning right, guess who they're gonna call? The city. And I don't know. That's how I feel about it. If the commission doesn't share those feelings, that's fine. But that's to me, just an open book for problems down the road, and we're gonna have to deal with them.
Why would you have to deal with them?
Because it's in the city of Fitchburg?
And because the HOA wouldn't deal with them?
No, I don't believe they would. I don't have confidence that they would.
Okay, is there?
I think when there is problems that the city ultimately would be asked to take over or do whatever, and that's simply what I've seen in the past, not on a comparable basis, but on other situations.
May I ask a clarifying question then, as a follow-up? The homeowners that live there pay into the homeowners association,
Correct.
and so then, I know you mentioned, at least in the way it's designed, then you talked about twice a week maintenance of the dog park, making sure there's not an overriding amount
Right.
of dogs.
We would certainly have some sort of regimented schedule for
Dog poo and
maintenance.
trash.
We have a professional management company that specializes and manages many dog parks
Right.
around Dane County, and they would develop a plan for us
Okay.
to follow.
And then the fencing, it looks like a lot of little tiny circles there. Those are shrubs, I'm assuming?
Yes.
Type of shrubby growth?
Yes, and Mark, we will be very particular in what kind of fencing goes around this dog park, because we have to build and sell all these houses. So we're not gonna put up mishmash fencing or anything that won't look good. We
No,
will
and
make sure this
I'm not
is good.
suggesting you would. I'm just saying that fencing over time is going to be a maintenance problem anyway, but just the appearance of fencing is not an attractive look to what amounts to be an alleyway within stone's throw of somebody's yard. I just see complaints coming from the houses of people driving in, and it's their dog park and nobody else's, and they pay for it, and I just don't see any compelling reason for it. And I do not share your views on this being an adequate-sized dog park.
I have a question. I guess, to just start with a comment, I think it's interesting that a lot of our commentary is on how busy we think it would be, which personally, I think that's a sign of a good park. that if it gets used, I think that's a positive, and it shows that there's a resource that we should provide if there's interest in. And then I think for this communication specifically, I think, Scott, you sounded favorable for this. So I think you're our expert for how park funds and how we can best keep our parks maintained. So I guess I'd love just, am I hearing you correctly, Scott, that in your opinion, this is a wise choice? It's something new. It's something that we have in our plan that we should explore. So am I understanding correctly that you think it makes sense?
It does, Sarah, and to me too, typically when we design a park, what do we always do? We always go to the neighborhood and ask their feedback on what they would like to see in their park. And I would suspect that these gentlemen in their development this is what they're hearing from their customers, so they're willing to invest dollars in order to build it for their customers. So for us to kind of decide, from my perspective, it's really most successful when the neighborhood kind of drives, and we need that help in deciding what the neighborhood is wanting in their park. So for us to design it, I think the experts in the design and the function and the amenities that are included in their parks, I think really come from the development and the residents that are going to be living there.
I would echo both of those comments. We don't want to penalize them for putting in too good of an amenity, and that's kind of what I feel like we're sort of getting at here. So, the parking is limited, but I would not want to give up anything else for more parking, certainly. And I think people will walk to it. If people are going to drive with their dog, they'll go to a dog park that has parking. So this one isn't going to encourage driving to it. As for its size, I don't have any problems with that, but all of our parks, we're always looking for community input and friends groups and volunteers because city staff doesn't always have the resources to take care of those parks. And right here, we have that maintenance built in and really guaranteed that it's going to be professionally managed and have the funds to do so from the HOA. So I think pretty much on all respects, it seems like a win-win, and I think it seems like a great idea.
One thing here, we really can't hear from the neighbors who are going to live here because there's not even any housing starts here. We can only go by what the developer is envisioning. So there's a little bit of a lack of demand from the future homeowners. They don't exist yet. One question that might help answer Mark's question about the size of this. Do you know what the total acreage is of these two dog park areas?
Yeah, the total acreage is about 1 acre for those two combined. So it's about 1/3 of an acre for the small dog park and about 2/3 for the large.
Yeah, I'm thinking compared to what is our Irish Lane Dog Park, 4.5 acres? Okay, so this is 1 acre. I think it's fine at the one at Irish Lane. Other people think it's too small. This one is, 1/4 of that. So it's a
And as far as the
comparison to consider.
Yep.
the neighbor comment, I've been out and about in North Stoner Prairie, obviously. That's where I'm located in proximity. And especially the running joke is after COVID, everybody went out and got a COVID dog. And we've got dogs all over the place in the neighborhood. And they can't wait. People are asking about this all the time in the people that have moved there. So there's about 40 to 50 houses, I'd say. Full support from North Stoner Prairie on this.
Okay, and I'll just back up my comment about the entrance to the small dog park there. I did misread that. It fronts on the alley, the private alley, rather than Wildcat. I'm going to presume too, since it's a private alley, there is no parking on that alley.
That is correct.
Okay, so no one will be able to park there and have an easy off-road way to get into this dog park. They have to park along
Correct.
Minong Lane. Again, I'm still.
Yep.
Yep.
No, I
People are
understand.
going to drive here
Yep.
from other places.
Any other questions, comments?
Quickly, I just second the idea that since people are working from home now and may continue to we can't predict long, but it seems likely, some work may shift to permanently from home, and there are a lot of COVID dogs out there.
Yes.
The rescues are empty, and the people who live around there are going, I think, going to enjoy having a dog park. I think it's a great feature. And it'll maybe create the demand for those who have volunteered to create and maintain the Irish Lane, to put in some amenities that match what is here. This is raising the bar for their other dog park.
Any others?
I just want to mention one little thing that you mentioned way at the beginning. You said there was confusion by some people about whether dogs have to be on leash or off leash. The city ordinance, based on some reinforced ordinance wording a few years ago, dogs do have to be on leash unless they are on their own property or in a dog park. For every other city park or any public property, a dog has to be on leash.
Correct. There's been signs that have gone up in key areas around the city here recently that have sparked a lot of Facebook chatter and neighborhood Facebook groups. So, yes, well aware.
Okay.
Scott, would you summarize what you would like this commission to approve?
Well, and I think at the end of the day, they're hearing a lot of good comments and input from the Park Commission, so they can certainly take those on advisement, and they can round out their proposal. But what I'm looking for is the Park Commission is saying, yep, this seems like a good idea. We've provided some additional information, and we ask you to include it. And then what we'll do is we'll draft it all up, get it for referral resolution to the council, and then come back to the Park Commission for their thoughts, and then go on to the Common Council for final approval.
Which also includes the fee adjustments.
Right, all the comments that are received, I would suspect it would be the language of the agreement reviewed by the attorney and all of those kinds of things, which is, I think this information is helpful to the group, and they can make adjustments if they feel they need to, and then we'll just kind of continue on, so.
We'll use language. City of Madison has vetted something like this before, and so we'll show you the language that we have.
And then we've got the rules that we've got at the dog park, so I'd share those with the group, and then we'd be consistent. So I think all the things that were spoken about can be addressed and taken care of, so.
Where's that Madison location?
Birchwood?
We've got,
Is that just a park?
yes, that's just. a
Park language.
Yep, so we've got two,
Or is that a dog park? I'll have to look where we've got that, but we'll send it over when we find it. We're trying to think which neighborhood has that in particular.
I'm sorry, this acoustics is horrible. What was the name of it again?
we've got two public parks that we've recently developed, and now we're working on a third right now in the city of Madison. Is that right, Matt? Yes. That are public parks that we improved. We've got several private parks that we've improved, and we've got language and restrictions there that say about how they need to be open and maintained and what they need to be done with. So we'll go back into those languages too, and try to meld the document together for the staff to review.
Okay, well, all right, I was looking for, go ahead.
You mentioned, I think, is there some other, like, new dog park along Lacey Road that you mentioned?
No, I had heard that along Fish Hatchery, apartments along Fish Hatchery was, I was talking to a council member the other day, and they said there was a proposed small dog park with actually at a multifamily project that was coming in.
Somewhere along Fish Hatchery?
I thought it was along Fish Hatch. I didn't know if it had gone to parks yet or not, but there's a multifamily with a dog park.
But it's not built or not finished?
No, it's just being proposed, yeah.
And that may be a private, they can do whatever they like to do on their private property. I haven't seen anything on public property.
So Matt worked on a project in the city of Madison that was a multifamily development where we developed a small dog park to it also. So, I mean, it's.
Well, if you think of it, just give it to Scott.
Yep.
Yeah, let us know. I have a question for Sue. I think you live somewhere right in this area here, right to the east of this?
Yes.
The maps right here don't extend out to show the neighborhood surrounding this. just a nice idea, like some of us are saying that there's gonna be people that wanna visit this and drive here and park here. Are there streets to the east that would be available for parking for visitors to this dog park? And does that seem okay, or is it
Well,
still like a
isn't it
potential
true
problem?
now that directly to the east is still farmed? The dog park?
It is.
Yes, that has, there's been a proposal put in for developing that. I'm not
Yeah,
sure what the
so I
status of
think
that is.
Meinong continues on through there.
It does.
It does, it
In the
goes
future.
through, they're just,
It has to end at the school, but then it would veer probably north and south and connect over to Lacey Heights subdivision. So yes, and then that goes all around to Wildwood, Seminole Glen. There are ways to get there without having to walk on Lacey Road, if you want to take your dog on a long walk and check out that park. So I don't think there's any impediment to getting there, but on foot.
the bike path will actually connect all the way through to the bike path that then runs north, all the way through Seminole Forest.
Oh, okay.
Through Seminole Glen to Seminole Pool, to, you know, you can get
So a
that whole
lot of
area.
those neighborhoods can connect
You
just
just
via the
continue
path.
in the path, you know.
Yep.
Yeah.
I would also point out that Black Hawk Church is just to the north of this, and there may be dual use of their parking lot
Oh,
as
that's a good
well.
idea. That's a very good idea.
Along the pathway.
Okay, let's, do we have a motion up?
I'd make a motion to support what's being proposed and to research this further.
Is there a second? Second? Any further discussion on the motion? Hearing none, voting on the motion, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed? Motion carried. Thank you, guys.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Appreciate your time this evening.
All right, resolution R-145 authorizing acceptance of construction bid for pickleball courts at Fahey Fields Park. Scott?
This is one of the final steps to get the construction of the pickleball courts at Fahey Fields. I would maybe just summarize a bit the timetable. There was an addendum to this contract, so the timetable has changed a little bit because, as you recall, there is a water loop that needs to go through, that needs to go in first. So we wouldn't have enough time to get this excavated, graded, and then paved by the end of the year. So we did do an addendum that the project, they'll be able to get it all graded and excavated and ready, but then they'll have to pave in the spring with substantial completion June 1, and then the project will need to be completely done by July 1 of 2021. And what's actually nice about that too is that will allow the base, if you would, to settle over the winter and those kinds of things. And if we need to fill in some areas, that'll allow for that opportunity. I would maybe just kind of summarize the whole project in that, you know, it'll be 8 pickleball courts. There'll be 8-foot fencing around the whole exterior. There's going to be 3 exterior gates. There'll be 1 interior gate because there's going to be 4 courts on top of each other, if you would. 34 regular parking stalls, 2 ADA stalls. We're putting in accommodations for a drinking fountain. There's actually going to be 6 culverts that'll be in this because it'll kind of, the path will connect to both the north end and the south end, which will be nice. And then actually the pickleball courts are designed for ADA. I did include in your packet of information, we've got the pre-approval, which has the different funding sources. We've got the bid document that kind of gives you the design and the look of it. And you can kind of see it if you look at the page that's viewing now. You see the culverts because you see all the topo lines on the north and the south side. That's where the ditches are. So these paths will actually go into the southern athletic field and the northern athletic field, just for a little bit of clarification on that. And I did want to include, this was the bid tab. We did receive three proposals. And R.A. Smith is recommending Joe Daniels for $548,282. And here's kind of the bid forms and things that was included in the packet for the council. I did also want to just reiterate the funding for this. I don't, I can certainly explain that, I've kind of gone through this a couple times. I can certainly explain it again if you'd need me to. But I did want to kind of provide a summary of both the R12220, which was the water project, along with the pickleball courts, just so everybody knows the funding and where the funding sources are coming from. Well, and I did include, too, the McGaw Park Master Plan. That when we did this back in 2012, we were kind of anticipating that we were going to get some additional parkland to the west. And it does call for the athletic fields on the north and the south, and then amenities in the middle. Oh, and then here, actually, I included an aerial, so it kind of gives you an idea, because come in here, and then there, and then the parking lot, and then the pickleball courts. And then there'll be a culvert here, because the path will go along here and back up, and it'll do the same thing on the top. So there's actually going to be access to both the north and the south playfields.
Are we looking east?
We are looking south.
South.
We're looking south.
Okay.
Existing McGaw Park is over here to the east, and then all
right.
the houses and things are over here. So you'll come up the access road, and come in here, and then the pickleball courts, and then the parking lot. And like I say, the path will come over this, and then on this side and up, and it'll do the same thing on the other side.
Is those, that part nearest us, is that also part of the park, or is that
This over here?
other side of that path? Or,
Yep, that's part of McGaw right here.
yeah, but the property nearest us, that,
This is a stormwater facility.
you keep jumping over it. The brown section, or,
Yep, that's the drainage swale.
no.
Is that what you mean?
Yeah, but the property adjacent to that greenway, is that also part of the park, or is that,
Well, there's some homes over here, and actually, I think part of this is the park too,
okay,
on the west side.
okay,
The swale at the bottom there, that's to the north, that is owned by the Crossing condominiums.
Yeah, down here.
Yeah,
okay.
or let's see, well, there's some ponds there first. They would be city-owned, and then a little farther off the picture, downwards, that's privately owned, but that is where the two ponds are right there, that is city-owned property.
Okay.
Okay. So there you have it. Patrick?
Yeah, as far as the construction timeline, when I read through the packet information here, I was looking for some of these dates that you've given us in the addendum here. I did have some questions about this. The timeline says the contractor may choose a construction start date, however, complete within 45 calendar days, no later than November 15th. So is there an intended start to actual work here?
We're anticipating, if all goes well, an authorization to begin around September 22nd.
So
But
that means-
we've got to get approved by the Common Council
Right.
on the 8th, and then we got to get contracts and insurances and all of those kinds of things, so, right, that's what we're hoping
So
for.
with those city approvals and those steps being completed, then September 22 is approximately the date when the contractor could start working?
Authorization to proceed, correct.
Right. And then they're supposed to finish the grading or complete the grading by November 15th. And then in the spring, what date would they start the rest of the work?
That's up to them, but they would need to have it substantially paved by June 1,
Right, I got that.
and then completed, completely paved and what do I want to say, renovated and all of that by July 1.
Right, I got that too. I'm just wondering if the city would have a date in mind, in other words, not start in February, of when they would start actual work for the courts and parking lot and such.
I would suspect they got to wait until the frost comes out of the ground and,
But the city doesn't declare a date.
no, and that was.
Earlier than, in other words?
And that was one of the benefits of expanding it, because then it allows the contractor more time to get it completed, which we think is a favorable for the contractor, that they're able to have a little bit bigger window of time to get it completed.
Mark, I have a question.
Yeah, David.
What was the original plan for Fahey Fields or McGaw as it relates to this area? In other words, we're putting pickleball courts in a place where previously there had been some activity? I don't understand.
No, this is a new park.
No. The park has been planned. So when the park was planned, there wasn't any specific activity for this area? Maybe it could have been tennis courts. Maybe it could have been a rugby field. Maybe it could have been soccer.
Well, if you look at the McGaw Park Master Plan in 2012, we did identify what we were going to anticipate in the Fahey Fields development to the west in the new park.
And it included?
Well, here, let's blow it up. We had a picnic area, a playground, a great lawn, shelter, restroom, and a half-court basketball is what we were planning in that area. So I suspect what we're going to end up doing is a playground. We'll have playgrounds in there. We'll certainly have picnic area because there'll be some green space. Eventually, hopefully, a bathroom, restroom. Instead of the basketball court, we're going to have the hard court pickleball courts.
Were there going to be soccer fields? I thought there was.
Yep, if you look at both on the north side and the south side, those are going to be open athletic fields. That'll be available for open athletic field play. Soccer, lacrosse.
Where it says open recreation field, is that the wording on the?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Just open green space for recreational activities.
Okay. You seem like you're
No,
withholding something.
I'm used to doing a master plan where you actually have specific activities depicted that, given that, then you have circulation, given that you have drainage, et cetera. It seems like this has been done in a very piecemeal fashion, that's all.
Patrick.
I'm remembering some things from those meetings, which I attended every one of them. The master plan, as I'm remembering, was really focused on inside of that heavy black line that goes all the way around on that map right there. This western edition is outside of that. So I would kind of describe this western edition part with this area we're talking about as lightly discussed and sort of planned out. But as far as what's drawn on there, sort of artist concept, you might say, just an idea of what could go there. I know this is entirely different in the center area because I don't think pickleball was even known at that time, or certainly not mentioned, discussed that I remember. So, yeah, there's no basketball. Some of those things are kind of getting dropped. I remember, a point in the discussion where there were supposed to be 2 tennis courts somewhere over here, so that's kind of off the picture also.
Over on the east.
No, I mean,
Southeast
in
corner.
the western edition, there were supposed to be 2 tennis courts. It's
No,
not
I-
drawn on here, but it was sort of artist concept. It wasn't
I was part of that
seriously planned.
process, and I kind of see the activity areas being sort of placeholders with examples of what could have been.
Yeah,
We're kind of dealing with a park that was there since the 1970s. So the baseball, it kind of areas, that you see in the gray is pretty much drives what the park was gonna look like even after those other additions were included.
Yeah, no, it's fine. And obviously, interests and activities change over time. I don't have a problem that pickleball is popular, and it would be an appropriate thing. Picking up on Sarah's comment about building parks that are used, that's good. I just find the whole plan just sort of piecemeal, that's all.
Well, I think if we had a blank slate, it probably would have been a lot different, but most of the park had already pre-existed, so.
One of the points about the master plan worked out there is that this western addition, as I like to call it, was privately owned. It was either a cornfield or a soybean field at the time of this master plan. So how much serious work do you put into planning something, 10 or 18 or something years into the future, when it is currently privately owned at the time that this master plan is worked out?
Well, I don't want to get way off course here because, that, to me, the pickleball courts have already been decided on in previous meetings. It's just a matter of approving the contract to build it. I mean, that's what we're looking at now with Resolution R4520.
Mark, I don't know if you received any emails, but I just wanted to say, or Scott, but I did receive 2 emails from residents supporting this project, just to let that be known. And I also, just for some background, we did discuss this in Works, and it was actually a tie in Works 2-2, and that the commission talked about how popular pickleball is and how no disputing that it would be busy park, and that especially with our current situation of outdoor activities being just really valued. The only reason why the vote did come down to 2-2 is there were some concerns brought up about the optics of just spend right now of being in a pandemic and where finances are being prioritized. And I think, Scott, thank you for breaking that down, because I think that is really helpful, showing the park improvement fees and just kind of addressing that concern. And then the other topic that was brought up is just accessibility and the ease of how individuals could get to McGaw as potentially being not the most accessible park. But without a doubt, the vote came down to 2-2, just that no dispute of the popularity of pickleball and outdoor activities being really valued. And just as a call out, the 2 residents that emailed in support saying that they would use the facilities and are excited about the addition for the park.
Okay. Other comments? Patrick?
That was interesting to hear. I can see their points of their concerns about this. Again, I have no problem with the pickleball courts. I think it's fine. It'd be interesting to see how much it's used. I do still have a problem with this parking lot. I don't like where it is. I don't like how it's designed. I don't like the flow in and out of it. I think, unfortunately, one of the things that I'm thinking about here is the pickleball court area, the 8 courts, look to me like they're pushed to the north as far as possible. In other words, outside of that fence there, it looks like you can't walk around the outside of the fence at the north end because you'll fall into a ditch, which sounds like there's no room for greenery, arborvitaes, trees of any kind, plantings, because it's pushed so far to the north. My idea on this is the pickleball court area could be farther to the south a little, to leave another, 10, 15, 20 feet on the north edge of it for some greenery, or maybe a path around there. In McKee Park, around the tennis court complex, there's a path that goes all the way around the east side of the tennis courts.
I have a question. We can't change anything, correct, about the way it's designed? We're only allowed to
It's a proposal.
talk about the proposal, the bid, accept the bid and move it up the chain? Is that that's how it's stated on our agenda, right?
Right, well, it's a significant change to deduct the parking lot to the point where they have to rebid.
Right, and that's not being sent to us
No,
to do that.
correct.
So we really should, I think, just restrict, as much as I probably agree with many of your ideas, but it's too late.
Oh, well, I would argue that, okay, we had just had Chris Ehlers Associates in here. At the very beginning, the preliminary stage, hasn't been even referred officially to us, just original concept. This never went that way, which I have a strong objection to, and I think
That's
we
true,
said
but
that.
it did follow a plan, and the council is correct, Sarah? The council's voted on this plan, this is done.
That this was part of the CIP, yes. that
Yes,
this-
okay,
The plan was voted on. I
correct,
mean,
and that's what I'm trying to verify, so that we don't continue to talk about those same details that we can't change, Patrick.
Well, this is up for a vote by us, and the options are yes or no.
Well, let's put something on the table then, so we have something to follow. Either approve resolution 14520 or amend
I'd make
it,
a
or
motion to approve
whatever, but
resolution
That's what we're here to approve.
Yep.
I'll second.
Who made the motion? Oh, okay. All right, and you seconded, Susan? Okay. Discussion on the motion. Patrick?
Yeah, I'm gonna be consistent in my feelings on this, based on, the parking lot. I don't like the parking lot. Based on the, non-existence probably of public input, non-existence of very much of any kind of park commission input as far as anywhere along the way. So I'm telling you right now, I'm going to vote no on this. I don't object to the pickleball, but I think it needed more public input and criticism and such, and it would have been better.
Any further discussion on the motion? Hearing none. Voting on the motion, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed,
No.
motion carried.
Very good.
Now we are down to communications.
Yep, I have a couple items I wanted to update the Park Commission on. The Veterans Memorial Committee at Gorman Wayside, they're beginning to start to try and solicit some donations for their project, and this is kind of a draft document that they're going to use as a pledge form. The next thing is, and a lot of you may not have been here when we received this, but the gold edition, which is actually, here's a map of it. Well, there's kind of an area. This is a city park where that arrow is. The Sain Road is over here, Greenfield Park. So what engineering is doing is they're actually doing a stormwater study in this area, because this area is awful wet. So I just wanted to fill you in that they're doing some work to kind of create a plan to potentially alleviate some of that stormwater issues there. Well, and then here's kind of they did do a wetland delineation of that property. And you can kind of see that it is typically wet to begin with. And then actually we did have an Eagle Scout project along the way. There is a path that kind of goes through that gold edition, which we haven't actually been able to mow the last couple years just because it is so wet.
Scott, would you have some idea of when there may be public input opportunities into the Curry Court Gold Edition study?
That, I think they bid it out and they already got, I believe they have a firm that they're going to recommend to do the work.
They're doing a study.
They're doing a lot of work, right?
So-
I don't know specifically what the work is, but they are doing a study of that area. Included in the area is the Gold Edition, so that's why I wanted to
Right.
bring your attention to it.
But I'm hoping that as part of the study, that the, whatever consulting company or whoever it is, has opportunities for public input.
That I don't know.
Would you be willing to look into that and
Sure,
let the
sure.
Park Commission know?
Sure, sure,
Part of this is a city park there on Curry Court.
right, but it's a stormwater initiative, so I don't know what they're,
Well, the background is the Curry Court Park was a chronic flooding area, and the neighbors, the private property neighbors around there as well, but there's a lot of water has been standing on the Curry Court City Park for a long time.
I will, I'll get that info and report back.
Okay.
Then I did want to give you a rundown of the CIP amendments that were approved by the Common Council. I will continue to keep the Seminole Glen Park kettle on my radar, and it looks like they're doing a CIP project for 2028, so it's on the docket.
Unfortunately, a long ways out, apparently.
Yep. Here is, they're working on the Public Works crew. They basically will put together the base for the additional parking lot here at the splash pad. So this is the additional, they're doing some work there. And then I also wanted to report that we were able to get a contractor to do the Wildwood Park shelter roof repair. So that's a pre-approval for that, because I know there's been interest in that. And then we have our staff reports. And I do have a couple future agenda items. I know there was talk about updating the park and open space
You're
plan.
going kind of fast through there.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
I don't know if anyone,
I do have a comment about the Seminole Glen project that's listed for, what do we say, 2028? I'm reading that correctly, that's to enlarge the storm sewer underneath Schuman Drive. And that won't do anything to mitigate one major portion of the stormwater issues within the park itself. What it is doing is correcting a problem that was created when North Stoner Prairie neighborhood was developed. The city, if I'm, I'm just a citizen who tried to follow it, so if I'm stating any of this incorrectly, please forgive me that, but North Stoner Prairie was developed with their own stormwater retention, not that long ago. And the plan, in the absence of us having a director of public works, a plan was created to have overflow stormwater in massive rainfall events go out into the street drainage, underground piping, the storm sewer, and there was a gate that would pop open and dump excess water into the kettle. Now, that gate's already closed, so no water right now is allowed to go any longer from North Stoner Prairie underneath Schuman Drive. So this project that's listed for capital improvement is to make the pipe underground bigger, so when North Stoner Prairie creates too much water, it's not, and it no longer is allowed into the kettle of Seminole Glen Park, it's not gonna pop the storm drain manhole covers up. So it needs to be done, but it's not going to do anything to fix the problems around the pond drainage on the other end of Seminole Glen Park. That's a separate issue. So it is related because there was a problem with that stormwater going into the kettle, but it's not going in there already. David Haight and the other neighbors saw to it that was already closed.
But Schuman goes right by the park.
Yes, it does. But the storm water that is being diverted from North Stoner Prairie, it's really mostly stormwater coming from North Stoner Prairie underneath Schuman Drive and continuing on now to McKee. Where this is now Plan B, because Plan A originally was the water came from North Stormwater Prairie, and if there was too much, some of it kicked out into the Seminole Glen Kettle. But that gate's already closed. So this needs to be done, but there are still other water problems at the park, within the park, that this does not solve. So
Well, I'll report that to them and say,
ask us, what up with that?
what up?
Yeah, what's the next part of the plan?
So they tried to get one by me and no.
Yeah. Well, this helps, but it's not, we've got those other little, when the path got elevated and then water comes circling around and all that other business.
Sue, are you saying that the storm tile improvement needs to be moved up from 2028?
Well, they'll do it whenever, no, it's not gonna change.
Right.
As I understand it, and I hope I'm not wrong, it's not gonna change anything about what's happening right now in the park.
Right.
2 years ago, water was coming out of North Stormwater Prairie, running down Schuman Drive, and then kicking into the kettles as an overflow.
That's when the gate was open?
Yes.
Is that a design deficiency of
Yes.
that development?
Yeah, there was no city engineer at the time. And it was something that was being developed, and however it was decided, it didn't work out. It just didn't turn out too well. And that's where we had the 15 feet of water in that kettle and the gazillion, bazillion, trillion mosquitoes, because that 15 feet of water stayed and
But
concern was killing
we have
goats.
It's dry now.
It's
is it?
dry now, because that gate is closed. It's drier than it was. But the other half of the problem, as the neighbors see it, is all the parkland within, when you walk up the park path from Schuman Drive north into Seminole Glen Park, there are 2 stormwater retention ponds, and it's really, the whole thing is a little bit low-lying with the homes are elevated. The streets and homes going along north, west, and east, it's elevated property, and it all drains down into the park. That is a separate water accumulation and drainage issue that I believe the neighbors do want evaluated professionally, or, acknowledged, number one, and then evaluated. In a dry year like this, everything's hunky-dory. Yeah,
So that is not being addressed yet?
Is this,
not in this improvement,
this
not in this
CIP.
capital improvement item.
are you on the Board of Public Works, or,
Nope,
but you got that from?
I just followed this because we were inhaling mosquitoes that year. And I was, what was up with that?
David?
Yeah, I would suggest that when, is it David Haight
Yeah.
came, he talked about that a 501c3 nonprofit entity was set up to help with the management of the park. I would think the Park Commission would want to do everything it could, along with the engineering and stormwater, to work with that organization to try to resolve the problem. If I remember correctly, he was quite frustrated with the city, both in terms of engineering or the parks. And I guess, Scott, I think I remember from the meeting, you were going to try to set up something or communicate or do something, but I think it would be a mistake not to take advantage of neighbors that are interested in their park, and to make sure there's clear understanding as to how do we proceed, what is the problem, what is a possible solution, and the path forward. That's all. And it doesn't seem like that has happened.
We're dealing with every effort possible to mitigate what's going on in the park. I don't know if that's possible. Can you look into that, or?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yep.
Yeah, David Haight gave us a nice paper with many pages, I don't remember how many pages it was, about the whole history and everything of the area. It was
Yeah, and
very
part
well
of the-
assembled.
Part of the frustration is, and I don't think it's the only park in the city developed with ponds in it, but it's not legally designated as stormwater ponds, but it functions as stormwater ponds.
It was a natural,
Well, the kettle is a natural formation, but the two actual ponds, when you go more towards the north section of the park, away from Schumann Drive, as you head north, there are two ponds, and they're in the low-lying area. But on the city of Fitchburg maps, it has nothing to do with being identified as stormwater retention, yet that's what it is. So the problems have no clear route to a solution. Public Works doesn't really fix things that go on in parks. Parks doesn't have the funding or the expertise to manage stormwater. That's their problem. That's what the neighbors there want to make sure we work out within City Hall, so that when we have the next high water event, sure, we're not going to have North Storm or Prairie water going in there because the gate is closed, but you do have erosion along the east side of the path going up into the park from Schumann. If you walk in and you're heading north, you look over your right side, and there's a wooded area that has the kettle, and between where the ponds are and the kettle, there's erosion because there has been a lot of water coming from that direction as well, where those two ponds are.
back in the 90s, that path was raised about 2 feet.
Right, and that it helped that the path was no longer icy, but it diverted all the water into the kettle versus some of that washing over the rest of the open space of the park and percolating down into that nice sandy soil. So it fixed something, and then it created this other problem. So he had in his papers or the suggestion of, at the very least, a temporary dam to keep the pond water from rushing down into the kettle in these really heavy storm situations. We have had none of those this year.
Well, we should also be retaining the contingency fund that we hold for a year, and I'm not sure if it's past that point after a development has been approved
for
for
North
errors
Center-
and omissions.
Yeah, well, I think
Because
the North Storm to Prairie's been done for more than a year. And the rest of that development's from the 1980s and 90s, so.
Well,
It's not, it can be done, it's just that it's gotta be coordinated between parks and public works. And that would be a nice destination for us to go as a commission, to walk around and understand all of it at some point
yeah.
soon.
Sue, in your opinion, is it safe to stop by and look at this area without getting eaten alive by mosquitoes?
Yeah, it's
Based on
dry.
our dry
It's-
conditions? 'Cause,
Yeah, you can go there now.
you know, when you described this earlier in the summer, I was afraid to go near the place.
Well, what I was referring to was 2 years ago, when everybody was flooded and everyone was complaining about
Okay.
mosquitoes.
Bring a kayak, right?
Right, now it's dry, but David's information that he gave to us 2 months ago was, included photographs showing a view of, in the kettle of, when it was dry and when it had the 15 feet of standing water. And they do mention that in this capital improvements line item, they refer to the fact that you don't want the kettle flooded because of how steep it is. Any kid walking along, any human, a deer walking along there, you slide in and you'd be drowning, and there'd be no way to find your footing. And so it's just a little bit, I don't want to say deceptive because I don't think that's the intention, but the capital improvements item is explaining that they're making the pipeline bigger because the gate's already closed. We're not in danger of this water going in from Schumann Drive and North Storm Prairie. Our second half of our problem now is the remainder of the park and how the stormwater comes in from all the
Of course,
higher elevations to the east, west, and north.
of course, if it's diverted to McKee Park, then what does it do to that, you know?
Well, and that's, I just checked with Alder Arata Frada, because that, you are right, it goes into McKee Farms Park. At Richardson, there's an access into the park, and that's where all that stormwater goes that goes into that Schumann pipe. And there was on Nextdoor 2 months ago, or a month ago rather, people complaining that how much flooding they're getting living south of McKee Farms Park. And that group is working with Alder Arata Frada to talk about their flooding issues. So they're getting flooding in part, I think, my opinion, because of North Stoner Prairie's overflow at times. I think everything, we don't have enough.
Fitchburg
In the
may get
city.
a lake after all.
Yeah, there's just not enough. As more and more of the land is developed, there's less and less places for the water to go, period.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
So you'll get us some more information on that, right? Next meeting, good, all right.
There might be even a point of having our stormwater engineer come and discuss these things with us, just so we're a little more on top of
Yeah.
situations.
Yeah, their first order of business may be to tell us that those aren't stormwater ponds in the park, and but I think they've worked out a similar problem in other areas of the city. For example, across from the Irish Lane Dog Park, Sunnyside, the neighborhood there has a park that just had a stormwater pond redone
Hillside Heights.
by Public Works. So
Well,
it's a Public Works, you know.
That
and it
subdivision and also Seminole Forest predates a lot of stricter
Correct.
stormwater requirements.
Yeah, so I think if I read that one, how that progressed correctly, it's not that the Public Works Department is going to say, we're never going to fix this, too bad. It's just, it takes more doing to get it done.
Yeah.
It's a little more coordination and study, because they don't have schematics of what those ponds were supposed to be, because they were never included in a Public Works realm. It was just a couple of holes dug in the park. There you go.
Yep. Okay,
Question here, as
you
long as
got
we're done with that.
okay.
Scott, this is not on your list of projects in communication, but is Wildwood South what Corey Horton, R.A. Smith, they were going to redo the whole water infiltration and such in Wildwood South? Is that going on this year, or what's the timeline on it?
Burn, I think they just
Burn?
began,
Burn Park?
Burn Park, yep, they just
Okay.
began construction of that.
Okay,
So that's,
that's going on for this fall here.
yes.
Okay.
So I heard, yep.
Carry on.
Okay, we got the park report, and,
I wanted to mention something about the staff report there, the recreation report from Chad Siegel.
yes,
Well, okay, it's just, what, 2 sentences? I think Chad has done his recreation department a kind of a disservice by not listing all the things that he and Austin have been working on. I have seen Chad out working. I've heard of Austin being out also. And you answered a question by email to me of what things they've been working on. I kind of think that he should have put more details in his report to give him and Austin credit for what they've been working on. I did have one question related to this now. From what I heard at the beginning of the summer season right here, we did not hire the Recreation Department summer LTE assistants because there was no programming, correct?
correct,
Okay, but we did hire the Parks Maintenance summer LTEs to help out with all the park maintenance, mowing, all that stuff that they do.
correct,
Okay, and we've got 2 groundskeeper people that work around this City Hall campus around here,
correct,
right, who are on the job. And now, there would normally be, I'm not sure what their time status is, there would normally be a splash pad attendant. I don't know if that's full-time or part-time, but it's an LTE in the summer, right?
Well, those are additional hours during the summer that are divided amongst the seasonal park maintenance staff. So the 4 park maintenance staff, they rotate weekends, so they work 6 hours on Saturday, 6 hours on Sunday,
Okay.
once a month.
So in other words, there are people in the intended positions, it's just their weekend hours at the splash pad, they didn't do that. They just
Correct.
worked during the week, probably.
Correct.
Okay, so out of all of those people, I just want to comment that it looks, from what I've seen, like many unusual things have been getting done this summer. So the reallocation of the personnel, normally in the rec office, normally on the splash pad, whatever, to work on special, unusual, never before touched projects have been, I think, very beneficial to the parks.
And I
I
think
like the way it's gone.
well, and I think it kind of shows that, we are strictly under capacity, and if we had the capacity that we currently have now, the parks would look a lot better, that's for sure.
Well, there's that side of it, but there's also just thinking about how the reallocation of the people from what they would normally do in a normal year to what they're doing this year has worked out well, I think, for the parks for this year.
Oh, yeah.
So that may be something to kind of review and see if there's something that could be learned from that for the future. And Chad and, at least I know Chad and Austin have been out.
Yeah, the
Out of
rec
their office
department,
working.
the rec department during the summer is a full-time job, so those are the 2 staff that, they wouldn't be able to be going out into the parks. The reason they're able to go out into the parks is the rec department is pretty much shut down at this point with COVID, so
Yeah, I know they're.
so
they said
they're,
they're just
once the
part-time
rec
at the
department
office.
gets back up and running, they won't be able to go back out into the parks.
Okay, well, something to think about.
Sure.
But anyway,
Thank you.
Chad could have written up more of what they were doing.
Well, that's, yeah. I'll share that with him.
Okay.
You're done? Scott?
Yep. Well, and I did talk about some future agenda items.
All right.
We've got the update of the 2015-2020 Park and Open Space Plan, so I know that was brought up by the commission members, so we'll talk a little bit about that. And as I mentioned, in 2015, we really did a comprehensive community involvement type of Park and Open Space Plan, so I suspect what we're looking to do for 2020 to 2025 is kind of update that document, kind of what we've done, those kinds of things, before we do a complete overhaul of the whole plan.
We should have I think everybody should have a copy of that thing before we get started. Just
Sure,
so we can
sure.
know what's in it before.
Right. And then I think Dave has mentioned this in the past too, what have we accomplished, what still needs to be accomplished. So the idea of, doing some kind of evaluation of what we've been able to do in the last 5 years.
Excuse me, do you envision that there would be public input into the plan?
I would envision that at this point. We certainly, I don't know.
And why is that?
Well, because again, I think to redo the whole plan takes resources and time. I think, certainly in 2015, it was time that we took a comprehensive look at the whole plan and got some input from the community. And I think we did get some good input and some new direction for the parks within the community. And then to redo that whole process again after 5 years, I think that, I don't know if that's necessary. So like I say, I think the idea of updating the plan that we had in 2015 to list the accomplishments and those kinds of things and continue on that way.
Well, again, I think an important thing is that there is public input. Maybe it's just a couple of meetings. It doesn't have to be starting
Sure.
as in the past, but just to have a document that you did 5 years ago that, yes, the public can see it, but let's be realistic. No one really looks at it. I just think that things change. 5 years ago, you didn't talk about pickleball courts at all.
Okay.
Well, I'll take a look at the plan and we'll maybe establish a calendar of
And again, that's what,
Usually we have a sort of a projected calendar of approvals and public meetings if they're, you know,
well, and I think what I'm hearing is that, Dave wants to figure out a process that we want, and I guess I'm just drawing it to the attention that it's completed, or it's expired, if you would, in 2020, and we need to update it, so how are we going to update it? And I guess my thought would be, but we can certainly discuss it, and the Park Commission can decide how they want to proceed with the update. But that's, that'd be a good start, is, okay, here's the plan, this is what we've accomplished, those kinds of things. And then, maybe the Park Commission has some ideas, and maybe at the end of the day, they'll say, you know what, this still reflects kind of the response that we received from the committee, or the community 5 years ago. And we could certainly have I think that's appropriate to say, hey, we're updating the Park and Open Space Plan. We'll have a couple public hearings to kind of explain it to the community, and this is what we're thinking about, to see if we have any other ideas. I'm just saying that I don't know if we really are gonna have to blow the whole thing up, because we just kind of re-blew it up. We kind of looked at things differently in 2015 to 2020.
I have a question.
yeah.
When the entire comprehensive plan was updated, this Park and Open Space Plan was included in it.
Correct.
And so when they had the charrettes, maybe there's a way of looking to see if there were park comments. In fact, I'm sure there were. There were at the one that I attended, and that we just, at the very least, make sure that those remarks, that we look at those and compare that to this plan.
Sure.
That might be
Right.
a
That'd
way
be
to begin to look at public comment, because some has maybe already been provided.
And that's why I was thinking we all should have a copy of that plan so that we can refer to it in future meetings.
And I think it's a good exercise just to kind of go through it and see what we've accomplished, and get back on focus on what we should be doing and all those kinds of things. So, and that's what the intent will be.
I think Sarah wants to get in here.
I don't even know if I have a,
Oh, I did,
plan
I did
anymore.
unmute, sorry. Scott, I just wanted to quick ask for the future agenda items. Could you also add the Seminole Village Pond? I've just kind of received some feedback on, is there a plan for how that'll be developed, or knowing that had gone through some recent changes, just kind of a topic to see what the plan is for the future for that area?
Sure.
Is that
Seminole.
okay?
Yep.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
okay?
And a couple things from me. Dorothy Kraus was at our last meeting, and she had a map that we didn't have available to us, and we don't have that. Could you distribute a copy of
I thought
that map, whatever Dorothy had to us?
Didn't I send that to you?
Not that I know of. And then,
Wasn't that in the emails that Dorothy sent subsequently? She had some
Yeah,
things
She
that
sent me
might
some
have
stuff.
had that.
in advance of that, I know I read it at the time,
Yeah.
but she had a map.
She sent something after the fact, in an email that got forwarded to everybody.
Yeah,
I
that
saw
was-
it,
Yeah,
and
that's,
I think it's in there.
that's what I thought I did. Generally what I'll do is after the Park Commission, if there's things that I can get to you, I'll do it. And so I think I sent an email to Dorothy, and then she sent me something back, and then I
Okay.
forwarded it all to you guys. I thought that's what.
Maybe I missed it then.
I'll double check.
Yeah, okay. And just because I asked you to bring it just for fun, would you show people what a pickleball looks like? I was gonna raise a question.
Right here.
Once I saw them, my question was answered, so I didn't bring it up. So those are pickleballs.
This is a pickleball and pickleball paddle and 2 pickleballs. Can you catch?
No, I don't wanna do that.
Oh, shit. I was trying to hit him with the
Right.
I was
That's
trying to hit
right.
him with, well, throw it to me. Throw
Not
it to me.
liable for
Throw
damage.
it to me.
Oh, yeah, right.
Throw it to me.
There you go.
That's what it is.
Getting nervous.
And people do, they say it's too noisy. That's what kind of.
see why, yeah.
We were looking to do a pickleball project in Oak Meadow, but the neighbors said it was too noisy.
Is that a real
Oak Meadow, right?
pickleball?
Pickleball. There you go.
Just a plastic ball, huh? I've never played the game.
Yeah, lightweight.
It's,
That was what I was wondering about.
So there's that. And then also too, we've kind of fallen behind a little bit in park identification. We've got actually 17 new parks that we need to get some park names for, so we'll begin that process. And I did include in your information, we do have a process to go through in naming these parks. So what I'll begin to do is start to, work with developers or those kinds of things, just to kind of come up with a list of what those potential names would be. And once the Park Commission decides what those names are going to be, we've got to put them out to the public for 60 days so they can provide comment. But then hopefully by the first start of the year, we'll have all these parks names so we can get park ID signs and get the parks out get the signs back out into the parks.
Be interesting to go back in our own history and, give recognition to people who've made significant accomplishments.
Well, and that's kind of, there is different criteria that list,
Right.
A feature or donations or those kinds of things. And like I say, I'll kind of come up with a draft of what those, where they are and what they could be potentially named, and then we'll just kind of get started that way.
Sounds good.
So that'll be forthcoming.
Okay,
But that's all I have.
all right, thanks, Scott. Any new business? Hearing none, I would need a motion to, our next council meeting, not council meeting, I'm really screwing up now, I know it's getting late, it's after 9. The next two park commission meetings are October 1st and November 5th. So now we need a motion to adjourn. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Susan? Oh, Sarah,
But I'll second it.
second. All right, Susan seconds. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Motion carried.
Time is 9:12.
We are adjourned. That's right, you put